1. There was a kid in my friend group in high school. He was super smart, funny, and seemingly normal. He was the best friend of one of my closest friends, so he was around a lot. Over the summer between junior and senior year, he messaged me asking for help picking out sandals for a friend whose birthday was coming up in February. It was July. He asked for pictures of sandals I had, so he had an idea of what was considered fashionable. I sent it. Then he asked to see them being worn, so he could see the form of the sandal and everything. I was busy, so I wasn't able to send it right away. At this point, I was becoming annoyed because he was continually spamming me with texts when I would take longer than an hour to reply. When I wouldn't reply within the day, he would text the next day saying, "Damn, okay then?" ? And it wouldn't stop. I told my friend, and she immediately jumped to the conclusion that the guy had a foot fetish. I denied it. Then, after I finally sent examples of the sandals on my feet, he said he saw something strange, and asked if I would send a picture of my foot without the sandal, so he could prove it to me. That is when I stopped replying. He continued to harass me, however, with "Hey's" about 4 times a day, a GM, a GN text daily, and many oofs when he realized I was avoiding his texts. Once the school year started, it didn't take long for the girls to talk and realize that he had harassed a large number of us. My class is pretty small, less than 180 total, and he had asked for pictures of manicures, pedicures, sandals, and videos of barefoot soccer playing from 80% of the girls. We told his closest friends, and they confronted him about it. He promised he would stop, claiming he knew it was a problem. Halfway through the year, however, he began texting all the girls. Sending around a video of him removing his socks without using his hands, he said, "Have you heard of this new challenge that's going viral? You should try it." From that point on, all the girls were shunning him, and all the guys avoided him in fear of being associated with him. He barely showed up to school, and would pay for entrance to school events and then not show up. The summer before college, rumors were going around that he was offering money for pictures. Some claimed they were offered $150, some were offered close to $500, and one girl, who was especially priggish, was offered $1,000. I was honestly intrigued, and after talking with my boyfriend about it, figured I wouldn't mind sending stupid feet pics for $500. I just had to wait for him to ask. Around the beginning of August, he finally approached me, but I was not prepared for the amount of discomfort I would feel. I thought I would be able to stomach it and reason with myself that I wasn't sending risque photos or anything, just pictures of my feet. He first messaged me with, "Hey, you know what I'm about to ask, right?" I played dumb, but then eventually got him to start offering money. He started out with $100. I declined, saying it wasn't worth it. He raised it to $200, and continued to raise it as I continued to decline. I was able to get him to $500 before he stopped and said, "I'm going to get a job for this. I don't have that type of money now, but I definitely will soon." I told him I would think about it. He asked if we could discuss the details in the meantime so that he had something to work towards. I asked what he meant by details and then wished I hadn't. "You've gotten a gray color for your nails before, right? Can you do that again? Here are the different poses you need to do." Followed by about 20 pictures and videos of his own feet in varied positions, some with oil, some without. I asked if he would pay for the mani-pedi. He said it's included in the $500. The pictures of the poses really freaked me out. I couldn't handle it, so I politely told him that I would not be taking up his offer. He asked if I could do him one last favor. I asked what that favor was. "Could you bully me on your private stories on social media, and then send me proof? Or send me what people say?" I asked why. He said that while he felt bad when he saw mean comments about him, he also kind of enjoyed it, and got a rush from reading those messages. "This would stay between us. The fact that I asked you to do it," he assured me. That was the least of my worries. I declined to do this and told him to have a good summer. Throughout our exchange, over the course of about a week, He had asked me not to spread his desires over 20 times, and I constantly had to reply with, "Okay." I'm wondering now if his last request to bully him was reverse psychology, maybe knowing that girls wouldn't want to satisfy his perversions by saying that bullying turned him on. He would get girls to avoid doing so. He is quite the genius apart from the fetish, so I wouldn't be surprised. Or if his initial request to not spread this was a reverse psychology. I've heard he was willing to pay extra if the girls did him a favor. When asked what the favor was, he told them he would like to be tickled. I wonder how many of the Finsta and Snapchat story posts about him were paid for by the man himself. He is blocked by the majority of the girls in class, shunned by almost all the guys, and will be going to college in the fall, with a new batch of girls to prey on. PSA, if you have a fetish of any kind, save it for yourself and your potentially willing future partner, instead of turning all of your classmates against you and losing all your friends by harassing girls for feet pics. And if the person who I'm referring to ends up hearing this, go to therapy or something. 2. This happened to me a few nights ago, and it is by far the most unsettling experience of my life. I work as a kennel attendant at a pet store, and deal exclusively with puppies. Ours come from AKC-approved breeders, and after the mandatory package we include, the non-negotiable price of the puppies typically resides somewhere between $2,000 and $6,000. I believe that the price of the puppies is why the incident happened, although we also have drugs for the puppies within the kennel, but I don't know enough about them to tell whether or not they'd affect humans in a way that would be enjoyable. The environment of my workplace requires a bit of explaining. The kennel section itself, the area meant only for kennel techs and puppy sellers, is L-shaped. In the foot of the L's is the office, and a few kennels which exist at that corner, along with an exit through which we intake new puppies. The rest of the L formation is comprised of the wall, where the majority of the displayed kennels are, and opposite those are sinks, washer, dryer, and pretty much anything we'd use during our job. At the end of this long space is a room we call isolation, where we house puppies who are sick or showing signs of sickness such as parvo, or anything which would require that they be separated from the rest of the puppies. There are 2 doors that lead out into the sales floor, both existing in this elongated space, on the same side as the displayed kennels. They are not locked in any way, since the puppy sellers need to frequently enter and exit to pull puppies for customers. Within the kennel, before each door, are absorbent floor pads. At the start of the day and throughout it when necessary, we pour a chemical called Rescue into the pads, so that our shoes are sanitized when entering and exiting the kennel. We're dealing with puppies worth thousands of dollars, so sanitation is top priority. We use Rescue for pretty much everything. When properly soaked, stepping on the pads leaves a foam footprint. The pads are black with a blue border, so you can always tell when they've been recently stepped on. There's also one within ISO that we have to step on when entering and exiting, and another in front of the exit to the outside. It was about 8:30 p.m. that night when I had finished cleaning the mats that we give the puppies. Up until 8, they still have blankets within the kennels. My shift lead had to leave early for some personal reason, and there wasn't much else to do within the kennel, since we closed at 9 and she had performed a wellness check before she left. I've been working here for a few months, and she trusted me not to mess anything up in the last half hour I had to remain there. The only things she left for me to do were to sweep, mop, and clean the rescue-soaked pads. Then leave them in the sink to dry overnight. After that, I had only to make sure all the puppies' water bottles were topped off, one final wellness check, and then I'd be free to leave. It's simple stuff. And we only had about 15 puppies. I would have been out of there right on time. We didn't have a puppy in ISO, so the only reasons to ever enter the room throughout the day were to get something from my bag, there's a rack for our belongings, and to fill up the soap from the pump inside. I hadn't gone in there for a few hours, so it slipped my mind to retrieve the rescue pad at the same time as the others. I gathered those, swept, mopped, and I had just finished doing some last-minute stuff in the office when I remembered the ISO pad. It was about 8:50 p.m. at this point, 10 minutes until the store closed, and I could go home. The only employees left in the store were a few puppy sellers, 2 of whom were counting their registers in the office, and the employees from the fish, lizard, and bird departments on the other side of the building. I was the only kennel tech, and the only one not totally preoccupied with some other task. The benefit of being a kennel tech is that we don't need to linger since we, those who open at least, have to be there fairly early in the morning. Something happened with the door to the ISO room before I started working there, so it's always kept ajar, a rag jammed into the lock slot to keep it from closing. I approached the door, walking carefully and slowly so as to not slip since I had just mopped. This slow movement gave me enough time to really look through the space of the partially opened ISO door. I could clearly see the rescue pad inside, and saw that someone had very recently stepped on the pad. 2 distinct foam footprints were outlined in the black. No one but a kennel tech is allowed inside ISO, puppy sellers aren't. They have absolutely no business being in there, for both sanitary reasons and because if they heard the puppy was sick and passed that information along to a customer, it could potentially cause public drama and ruin sales. No one else has clearance to enter ISO, not even the managers of other departments. I cannot stress enough the exclusivity of that room to kennel staff. Seeing this and feeling instantly unsettled, I spoke aloud, saying, "Oh, right, there's no puppy in ISO." My voice was obviously shaky, but I hoped it would be convincing enough for the intruder to believe it, and not realize that I had seen their footprints. I walked away, trying to make my steps sound as audible as possible without being ridiculous. I went into the office, asked one of the managers counting a drawer to switch the monitor to the camera feed in the kennels, and together we watched as a bald man wearing a medical face mask and a black t-shirt and jeans crept out of ISO, nearly slip on the newly mopped floor, and exit the kennel. On the other feeds, it could be seen quickly walking away, reaching the exit of the store, and even having parting words with the front staff as they prepared to lock the doors. None of them cared to wonder where he had come from. I hadn't seen him carrying anything, but I still ran from the office and checked over every single puppy we had. Once they were all accounted for, I texted my manager what happened. We don't have a clear, persistent count of the medication. Some puppies were pretty stubborn about allowing their doxy, or would spit out the Albion, or anything we needed to give them. So I couldn't really tell whether or not any of that had been taken. I went into ISO and saw that one of the doors to the kennel in there was open. Neither myself nor my shift lead had opened them, and as I've already mentioned, there wasn't a dog in there. The room is brightly illuminated, so someone could see that they were empty without having to open them. My only guess is that prior to his discovery, he had maybe planned on crawling inside one. They're pretty spacious, needing to be large enough to comfortably accommodate the bigger puppies. The managers of the other departments convened, told the owner of the store, and I was allowed to go home a few minutes after 9 once I was certain the puppies were all okay. The police were informed and the tapes reviewed, but so far nothing else has really been done about the incident, and no one resembling the man has entered the store since. 3. This happened when I was 16, 4 years ago. I attended a bakery and pastry professional high school. I don't know if it's a thing in other countries, but it is in Italy. I was at the end of my second year, and I was supposed to do an internship for a month in a bakery and pastry shop. I got accepted into one near my town, and I made an arrangement with the owner that I would do 2 weeks into the pastry laboratory and 2 weeks down in the bakery, because I was kind of figuring out which one I liked more. I ended up having a good time when I was making bread rather than pastries. The baker who was supposed to look over me was 25 or 26 years old. He was nice, patient, and sort of quiet. On my first day, I almost let a whole plate of freshly baked pizza fall on the ground, and I still remember how cool he was about it. He never screamed at me, unlike the pastry chef. He patiently answered my questions and helped correct my clumsy mistakes. Sometimes he made puns or jokes. and sometimes we just worked quietly while listening to the radio. He always treated me well, and I don't ever remember feeling uncomfortable around him in those 2 weeks. The internship ended, he gave me good scores, and we ended up saying goodbye in good terms. I sometimes would come back to buy bread from them and just say hello. Then I started my 3rd year of school. We were supposed to have another internship after Christmas break, preferably at a different place to learn different methods of working and stuff. A classmate of mine went to that bakery, while I ended up going to another one in the mountains. It was basically an hour away from home, and some family friends that lived there offered to let me stay at their house while I was doing the internship. This one was the best internship I had. Then 3 weeks in, my classmate texts me. She tells me that the baker back in the other place, knowing we were classmates, asked her if I was doing okay and if he could have my number to talk about my new experience and stuff. I still had a good memory of him, so I said, "Yes, you can give him my number." Shortly after, he texted me, asking how I was doing, how was this new bakery, if I had any trouble or felt alone, being a bit far from home. So at first, the conversation was totally normal, nothing suspicious. Then he said, "When you come back home, would you like to go out?" At this point, I was kind of perplexed. After all, he was more of a good acquaintance than a friend to me. We never got super close while working together, and he was also 10 years older than me, so I was like, he can't mean it that way. He must mean like a friendly cup of coffee. But that still felt weird, so I asked him, "What for?" He just replied, "Just to hang around." I told him I had some tests to study for right when I would come back from school, which was actually true, so I would be busy for a while. He said he was okay with that. I was feeling uneasy that evening, so I sent the screenshot of the convo to my mom, literally writing "help" as a caption. From my point of view, an adult who I knew from working with him just for 2 weeks, and at least 8 months before, who I did not know any more than as a friend, just asked me to go out with him. I hoped my mom would help me, tell me a way to turn him away kindly and say no like I wanted to. At least I wanted her to be aware of it and give me advice. She called me right after receiving the text, all cheerful and not worried at all, told me I was overreacting about an innocent request, told me he was probably just friendly and that it wouldn't be bad to get some coffee with him. I reminded her that he was an adult, older than me. I told her that I did not know him that well and I did not trust him enough to get into a car with him alone. I was shocked that my own mother would think that was okay, considering that when my older sister as a teen got a ride home from the father of a friend she was visiting, my mom went full rage on her, yelling, "What were you thinking letting her father take you home with no one else in the car? It could have been dangerous." But she was now okay with me getting a car ride from a man she had never even met or knew. To this day, I still don't understand what the hell she was even thinking at that time. She only later on realized that the situation was actually weird and possibly dangerous. She told me to wait before saying no. Just get to know him better. So I kept answering his texts. And then he did something weird again. He asked if I had any photos of me so that he could save one as my contact picture. I told him no, I did not have any. He says something like, "Are you sure? Not even one selfie?" I said, "Yep, not even one." I actually had 1 or 2, but of course I was not comfortable with sharing them. He then replied, "Such a shame, you're so cute." I got really creeped out there, so I thought, okay, I was giving him the benefit of the doubt, but now this is starting to cross a line. A man that age shouldn't be asking for pics and then saying, "You're cute," or something like that to a minor. That's just creepy. I felt so anxious. I didn't even reply and I went to bed early. The day after I was out of it, even while working in the bakery I was distracted and anxious, and the baker's heir asked if I was okay multiple times and offered me a cup of coffee. Later that day he texted again, "I hope I didn't scare you yesterday." I was like, "Well, of course you fucking scared me." But I actually replied with something like, "Oh, don't worry, it's okay. I was just busy, so I forgot to reply." I wasn't used to standing up for myself at that age, at least not against adults. A few days passed, and he suddenly started sending me pictures of shoes with high heels, and asking if I liked them, and if I was interested in a pair, because his sister wanted to give them away. I told him, no, I don't wear high heels. He kept being insistent about it, saying, come on, do you like these ones? And sending more pictures of different shoes. At the last pic of some stupid purple absurd high heels, clearly not meant for a teenager, I literally searched for woman mountain boots on Google, sent him a pic of one pair, told him, this is my type of shoes. He replied, oh, but those are kinda ugly, with a sad face included. He used a lot of those faces. I told him, well, I like this kind of shoes, and if you don't, deal with it. Yeah, a pretty silly and immature thing to conclude that conversation before blocking a person, but hey, I was 16. I then blocked him because I was having none of it anymore. I was anxious all the time. I felt almost scared to go back home, scared of the chance of even seeing him again, since we lived 2 towns near each other. Even my mother, after her cute compliment, got suspicious and urged me to avoid him. So I did. I blocked WhatsApp, his number, Instagram, everything I used at the time. I never went back to that specific bakery out of fear of seeing him. And that sucked because there were 2 really nice women that worked there too, and it was nice coming back and chatting with them. Didn't hear from him for 2 years. The moment I started using my old Facebook account again, I received a friend request on Facebook from him, and a direct message saying, hello. I immediately blocked him there too. This may not be that scary compared to some other stories, but I've been contemplating telling my experience for a while now. What shocked me the most out of this was the complete change of behavior of who I thought was a good person. It felt like a betrayal, and he ruined my only good memories of that bakery. And of course I sincerely hope to never meet him again. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to 3 True Scary Stories. Episode 510. And thank you very... Go away. Sorry. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. It's that time of the year again where the flies are harassing me while I work. I'm even more annoyed by them now than I usually would be. Being paranoid, I know, because I've seen nothing to suggest that bugs transmit the evil that's outside, but still. I started paranoid, so I'll continue paranoid. Thank you very much. I would like to say thank you to the lovely audience who's joining me in the chat while I record. I find the weekend recording streams go rather well when there's people to keep me company, because I get very sad and lonely sometimes. Okay, and with that, I'm going to head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.